यकीन में ढल जाते हैं जब करम होता है हालात. And if you are clock watching, it's exactly 15 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. And of course, it is the afternoon jam right here on Radio Al Ansar 90.4 FM in Durban and 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg and all around the world at alansar.org.za. Now, this afternoon, we are honored to be joined by an inspirational South African woman who is quite literally walking for change. Now, Dr. Thandeka Sibiya is an educator, a women's health advocate, and a uterine fibroid survivor who is currently undertaking a solo long walk from Pietermaritzburg to Johannesburg. And as part of a national awareness initiative called Walking for Our Bodies. Now, this powerful journey is, shining a light on women's reproductive health, menstrual health education, gender-based violence, and the fundamental rights of women in South Africa. Now, to walk freely, obviously, without fear. As she approaches and passes through a Ladysmith area, Dr. Thandeka joins us to share the purpose behind the walk, the challenges on the road, and the conversations she hopes this journey will obviously start and spark across communities. Welcoming to the Afternoon Jam, Dr. Thandeka, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. And thank you for hosting me in your program. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's only a pleasure. Now, Doctor, take us back to the beginning. What inspired you to embark on this long and demanding walk from Pietermaritzburg to Johannesburg?
You know what? There are so many things that have inspired me over a long period in life. But for the purposes of this conversation, I would say that perhaps, living outside the country for quite some time, I've envied, how women, how kids are free, to move around without any threat. I've always traveled, from Romania to Serbia alone with no threat, from Budapest to Austria. I've traveled across I've been to Iran as well, alone, and people have wondered, what are you doing in Iran? I'm like, why not? Why can't I go to Iran? If I want to go to Isfahan or Ahwaz, I have a right. I'm a global citizen. Same thing in South Africa. As a citizen of South Africa, I believe that that citizenship, that privilege of being citizens of South Africa as women and kids have been taken away from us. And we've been left with, we are like stranded. We are like people who have no home. Every time we think of going hiking, we are not only scared of snakes, but we are scared of what other humans can do to us. And I think that is not right. It's not right by all means. So hence I've put my life on the line, and I'm saying that let us walk for our bodies. Let us walk as South Africans. Let us be allowed to express ourselves through movement.
Absolutely brilliant. But we do know that you are a uterine fibroid survivor. How did your own health journey shape the message and urgency behind walking for our bodies?
See, the issue of fibroids, it's intertwined. It's not just a medical issue or challenge, but it has trinklets of social issues. Like if you look at how rural, like I've been traveling across the Midlands, there are cities, there are urban areas, but also there are also rural areas. And I'm so pleased and glad, I'm happy that I was able to have conversations with rural women. Like yesterday, we had this, intimate conversation that it is important to sometimes not to believe in superstitions, because we tend to associate superstitions to fibroids, like we have bewitched this and that. Sometimes it's good to go to a doctor and have a checkup. So, because as rural, I grew up in the rural areas myself, so I highly identify with the challenges that rural women face. So I think it is important to to dissect the topic of fibroids, to dissect the topic of reproductive health, and remove the stigma that it's attached to it, and also the taboos that are also attached to it, and also just to understand, the issue of fibroids, just like we understand and speak about cervical cancer, breast cancer, and stuff. We should also afford it the same attention. That's what I believe in, that if we don't speak about fibroids openly, we are going to have our wombs removed because we don't understand what fibroids are, what causes them, how we can manage them, what are the other solutions before we can even consider removing the womb. What are other solutions that are there? But we can never understand that until we have triggered a conversation.
Ah, absolutely. But we do know. Let's talk a little bit more about fibroids. A lot of women live, with fibroids in silence. Why is it so important to talk openly about, the uterine fibroids and the reproductive health in South Africa specifically?
It goes back to what I've already said earlier, that the silence is because we lack knowledge. We tend to afford other reasons to why my stomach is growing bigger, and some of these reasons, of course, they are attached to superstitions that, particularly us as Black women, we believe in. But also just generally the lack of knowledge. You just find yourself comfortable, living with something without, finding going or visiting a doctor. So the silence stems from different reasons. There is no singular reason, but also the issue of a stigma that is attached, but because you remember that fibroids come with heavy bleeding, menstruation. To some communities, the issue of menstruation is still a taboo. You see, even men, even if he has a daughter, but still they will shy away from talking about such issues. Men who are in HR, if I, as an employee, I cannot come to work because I have a problem that is related to menstruation, my employer or HR doesn't really understand and even the gravity of that condition. And I find myself, maybe my salary is deducted because the HR manager doesn't understand. So it's lack of knowledge, the stigma, and everything in between.
Now let's talk a little bit more about your journey as you pass through different communities so far, I'm sure. And what reactions or conversations have stood out to you the most?
I can write a book. I wish I wasn't lazy to write a
Please.
book. If somebody here is listening, any publisher who's willing to author a book, I think, because you know what, you will never understand how people think until you get down there and you are with the people and you understand exactly how they think. I've been receiving different reactions, some nonchalant, people who just don't care if you are talking about GBV. Others, they were laughing, they will find it a joke. I'm even ashamed to say that even police officers, some like not police officers, traffic officers, they just nonchalant, and this breaks my heart, that, people that you will think that they're supposed to uphold the law, they don't really care what you're talking about. So, but, in some police station commanders, they told me that these are the programs that we have. This is how we address gender-based violence. This is how we address victims or survivors. In Ladysmith, I was thoroughly impressed because the station commander there sat me down and he even explained, the Firearms Act, Firearms Act. If a person is in possession of a firearm and he is using it to abuse his wife, these are the steps that the wife can take. I didn't know about these things, so today I learned a lot of things, and I so wish that after the president had declared, because I was there at the social summit in G20 when President Ramaphosa declared GBV as a national crisis. After he has done that, I so wish that now we can understand that it is not enough to declare it as a national crisis. Now there is an even more important job to go down to communities. I think this spirit of me of being a teacher is really bothering me, because I feel like people need to be educated, because just declaring something as a crisis is not enough. People need to, and we need to have a paradigm shift in terms of how we think about certain issues. Because if the mind still remains the same, if I think about beating a woman or beating my husband the same way I did yesterday, no matter how much GBV is declared a national crisis, it's not going to change anything.
This conversation, I think this needs to be made into a podcast, because it's quite interesting. I don't think we'll be able to get all that we need to know in this little time. But for individuals that are listening, who are inspired by your journey, how can they support Walking for Our Bodies, or get involved in this particular movement?
Yes, South Africans, please, they can follow. There's a social page on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Walking for Our Bodies. Our email is walkingforoourbodies@gmail.com. And Nomi Gugu Misunkosi, she's assisting me. She's my manager. She's assisting me to organize things, a place to sleep, this and that, interviews, all the shebang that is associated with this. So you can contact her on that email address, but also, more importantly, you can follow and see the stories that I'm posting. The kindness of things that we don't talk about, how kind the South Africans are. I know our country, sometimes it can be, but I think the positive stories need to be told. How families have taken care of me without expecting anything. And of course, there are those glitches here and there, which I don't want to talk here because I don't want to be negative. It's all about positivity. But also, if you see me on the road, I'll appreciate water, a fruit, or anything that will keep me going, or even words of encouragement. Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. But Dr. Thandeka Sibiya, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We wish you all the best for your journey and all the safety. And once you get to Johannesburg, maybe we can obviously get in touch with you again and ask you about your overall journey. But I wanted to know, before we end, once you get to Johannesburg, what next?
So the plan is to meet the political leaders there, the premier of Gauteng. We are still trying. We cannot break the wall. The red tape is everywhere, the bureaucracy. We are trying to break it. Hopefully it's going to be, we are able to dismantle this wall and be able to see the premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, so that, I leave this message, because this is like one province to another province, trying to connect provinces, because almost everybody's in Gauteng. So I think it's a good place to go, Gauteng. I could have gone to Limpopo, but Gauteng is like a hub of South Africa. So that's why I chose Gauteng. So once I get there, hopefully, I hope that the premier of the province will be able to receive the message.
Hopefully so. Like I said, Dr. Thandeka, this is a fantastic initiative, and we wish you nothing but the absolute best. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, South Africa. Bye.
Bye. That was Dr. Thandeka Sibiya, and she was basically going through this entire story as to why she's walking for change, and she's an educator as well as a women's health advocate. Still lots to talk about right here on the Afternoon Jam. Don't go anywhere.
The Afternoon Jam, courtesy of
Bars, where shopping is fun, and you are number one.